It's that easy. I feel like you should have you should have to file for a permit to go live on Facebook. They make it far too easy. And every time I hit the button, I'm like, man, I should have to do more. Like, like submit a blood test or something. I don't know, take a psychological examination, something like that. But
yeah, background.
Here with Rumsey today, just to talk a little bit about them and, the incredible success that they had last year. Since I've got multiple members of the team on, I'll just ask the questions and then let you guys fight for the answers, if that's all right. So let's start and just say, tell it, if I've never met Rumsey, let's assume I was living under a rock and I just never knew who you guys were. Tell me a little bit about the story.
I can take that one. So Rumsey really started years and years ago with Tony Rumsey, and Tony was a general contractor, had a contracting business. He did renovation work, did a lot of different types of construction, and really brought Brendan, his son, up doing that construction. They did that for years. They were high-end residential, really, and I mean, very nice homes, very, very custom cabinetry, things like that. And then I think in 2008, there was the turn down in the economy really affected a lot of residential home building, and especially high end. And Tony struggled during that period, and Brendan saw that, and Brendan took his way out and started doing roofing claims, and saw that as an opportunity. And so he did that for a little while, and then in 2011 they joined back together and saw the opportunity for doing claim work with insurance claims. And so they formed up the Rumsey Construction and Restoration, and then went from there doing mitigation and reconstruction work for insurance claims.
Wow. And is Tony still involved in the business?
Yes, Tony and Brennan are their father and son partnership, and they're in the business. They have grown over the past 5 years or so. We've really grown a lot more, and they have taken their step back a little bit more, getting us in place as their management team.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. I get the opportunity to work with a lot of different business owners, and one of the challenges that most face is that ability to let go of the vine, so to speak, and create pathways for autonomy. And so it's really nice to see that happening for you guys within Rumsey. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think they both have a very key role in our business still, and it's not that they give up complete control to us. They both have their roles.
So, all right, I'll lean into that. I told you I might ask follow-up questions. What is the seat that they sit in that only they can sit in, right? I always talk to owners and I'm like, look, you should only be doing the things that only you can do. It looks like they've embraced that. So what are their primary roles and responsibilities to the business right now?
Grace, did you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Brendan is kind of our visionary. And then Tony, he sets the stage for our company culture. For sure, he sets the standard for it.
Okay. And so what do they what's an average day look like for either one of them?
I would say very day to day.
Yeah.
I could probably jump in there too. So, Brendan and Tony are very much tradesmen at heart, right? And you talk about that struggle to let go for ownership and things like that. Well, they struggle to let go of the hard work. You see Brendan and Tony out in the lot washing trucks. You see them working with equipment, and then you'll see them in a meeting about company culture and things like that. So for those guys, they're very much in the mix. And they'll be making decisions down to $100 decisions and then $1 million decisions the next day. And it really drives home that family culture that we have here and that we've built, right? And, we have a lot of compliments from our employees that, those guys walk and talk it, and it trickles down to the rest of the organization.
Awesome.
And to add to that, Brendan is like Grace said, the visionary. He looks at those big ticket things that are out there that he wants to go and tackle, and helps us to see what he wants to go after and really hypes that. Where Tony, he's a master carpenter. Tony has a cabinet shop that he's created himself over time, and like he can build any custom cabinet that you need built, and that has helped our business tremendously. Just because you go into these places that we have to rip cabinets out, a lot of times it's not a standard size cabinet or a standard type of cabinet. And some of these higher end ones, that's complete custom. And he is a master carpenter. So they both have their extreme roles in our business, and it really helps us out.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. So I'm going to take a crack. Like, are any of the three of you, is your work experience specific to restoration, or did all of you come from different areas of different industries and that kind of stuff?
Well, I'll let Grace go first.
Okay, I'll go first. My family, my dad and my uncle owned a restoration business in Augusta, Georgia. I did not start out in restoration, though. After college, I did some nonprofit work for a while, but I did work for my dad's business. That was kind of my start in restoration, and I met Brendan when I moved to Columbia, and I just believed in him and his vision. And I've been with Rumsey for a little over 7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Damien, what about you?
Sure. The meat of my career has been restoration. After school, I became a brick mason by trade, and then 2008 hit. And a friend of mine says, "Hey, I work for this restoration company, and it's recession proof over here. You should come and be a technician." Here we are, like 17 years later, right? And it's crazy. So yeah, the meat for me was restoration, and I feel like I've seen a lot of change in that period of time, right? We've really accelerated. For sure. Jonathan, what about you, man?
So I grew up a little bit in construction, and then decided, you know what, I want to go to school. I don't want to be out here slaving away in this heat. And so I went to school, and I worked in engineering for 21 years, doing structural engineering. And then decided I've known Brendan for years, and he talked to me about coming over to help him out and look into helping like operationally with the business. So after a few years of me going back and forth with him and talking about different things, we decided to make it happen. And I came on board in 2020, first in the industry for restoration. And it's been interesting. It's a challenge every day. Just much like my engineering background, it was something different all the time. And I like that. I like challenges. I like problem solving, things like that.
Got it. And you kind of touched on it, Jonathan, but why do you guys choose to stay in restoration, right? There's a world of opportunity at your fingertips, but you've made the choice to stay here. Why is that?
I mean, I know for me, it's like we said, it's a challenge. I like challenge every day. I like something new. And then also the opportunity to help people we all say that all the time in restoration, but it is something that's really a key in that for me is helping people and not just the people that are customers, but the people that we work with, really giving them opportunities.
Grace, what about you?
Same for sure. I like that every day is different, the industry wise. And then I just love our culture at Rumsey. I love the people I work with, and that definitely helps keep me going when things are hard.
And our veteran, Damien, what about you, man?
Yeah. Again, seen a lot. So yeah, I choose to stay in here because I don't think people realize how much they can change their lives just by being in restoration, right? Anybody can really do this industry with a little bit of work ethic and effort and care, and you can accelerate through this industry to a really, really high level. And I take a lot of personal satisfaction in trying to coach people along and get somebody to the next step and giving them that opportunity to really accelerate and change their life and their family's life. So I've gotten to witness that with people, whether they stay at a company or
Mhm.
fly like little birdies and go onward. And I think that's really cool, especially when you hear from those people years later and you get a little bit of that satisfaction on the back end. It's pretty cool.
I agree. And now you guys joined Pivot, what was it, a year and a half ago?
May of 2022.
2 years.
Yeah,
2 years.
so-
Okay, it's been 2 years. I was close. I'm usually not even that close. Why'd you guys decide to join Pivot?
We are really big on learning from other restoration companies, education, sharing knowledge within the industry. And we're also very focused on improving ourselves and the business. And we just felt like the people in Pivot were like-minded and we were going to be able to learn from them. And I'm sure they can learn from us too.
Awesome. Damian, Jonathan, anything to add?
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons was, like Grace said, we looked for education, and we also, Brendan has also always fostered the mindset that we want to give back, we want to teach, and he's very big on making sure that other restoration companies know the best way to do mitigation work, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that we're all doing it the same way, so that we can affect the industry as a whole. So that was when we saw Pivot and the other companies that are in it with a very much like-minded mentality. That's one of the big reasons we joined.
Awesome. And then what sort of value have you guys gained in your time here at Pivot? Like, and I'd encourage you to be specific, right? Like, oh my gosh, this one thing really, like we found it, this process, you guys know the little bit of the playbook that we have. I'll give you the opportunity to cherry pick a little bit.
Yeah, I'll jump there. I mean, for me, I'm a very competitive person, and I think most of the people that are, right? So we get to rub elbows and set goals and push one another beyond our organization. Beyond that, I think particularly the financial aspect of Pivot is really big. I don't think a lot of companies our size and smaller, I mean, we're a pretty good player, I think, right? But our size and smaller get exposure to P&Ls and other people's financials. Unless you're in like a top 5% restoration company in the country, you're not sitting in a boardroom looking at other branches' financials, right? So that's a big thing, to be able to look at that and look at trends and things like that as a business owner or a business leader that you're probably not going to get exposure to anywhere else.
Awesome.
I think, go ahead, John.
Sorry, Grace. I think too that many people say they can learn in various ways, but the biggest way to learn is visual overall. And when we sit in that room and we see the problems that other people are facing based on financials that we're going over, I mean, you do see those trends like Damian was talking about. And that visual learning, man, you pick it up so much faster when we're sitting in a room with all these people talking about those problems. And we address things so much quicker by listening to the others and how they've dealt with it. And then also us being able to contribute to what they're going through. We're generating ideas as we're speaking to them on fixing their problems that we're all dealing with too. So it helps us to fast track that.
I think it's also all the processes. So I think we've implemented so many processes in our business that have helped us run better and create structure. And I know on the marketing side, it's been really integral to our success, all the processes that we've learned through Pivot.
You kind of teed up my next question so elegantly, Grace. So last year, your company was first place for year-over-year leads growth on our leaderboards.
Yay.
That's right. Damian's like, hell yes, we were. And we're going to be next year. So watch out, everybody.
That's all Grace.
And then
No pressure.
Fourth place for revenue growth. So for those, was that a surprise to you, or did you guys see it coming?
I mean, we were working really hard. I think we were kind of head down. We had set a lot of goals and we were like, we're going to meet these goals. So I think we were mostly just like in the grind of like trying to, we're all very competitive. So I think we were trying to be the best, but mostly just focused on the work that we had in front of us.
And truthfully, the other companies that are in Pivot, like they're no slouches, right? We don't know what their performance is going to be. We want to be the best, but I don't think that we expected it as we were, in those categories, because we were doing the best we can, but we don't know what these other guys are going to do. But I think we do have the mentality as a group that we're striving for that first place.
And like to the other organization's credit, there's a lot of folks that are nipping on your heels. So if you thought you could take your foot off the gas for 2024, I'd hate to break your heart. Still work to be done, that's for sure. For those organizations, like anybody who's listening to our live right now, and they're sitting there going, man, I would love to see a significant increase in my leads and my revenue. What were some key learnings that you guys had in the previous calendar year that you'd like to share?
So a lot of it was things we learned in Pivot, the 6-step sales process. We got really clear about our deliverables, what we're going to give our clients. And then also, I think it's at Rumsey, we're really big on the collaboration between departments, specifically operations and marketing. I think so often there's this divide there, and we don't have that at Rumsey. We work together. We all have a very similar mindset. And I think that has really helped us stay ahead.
I'm going to lean into that a little bit. What are things that you do or actions that you take to make sure there's continuity between those two departments?
Ooh, can I tell you that?
I think we're really open with each other. I know on the mitigation side, I share an office with our director of mitigation. I think that helps because we're constantly communicating. But I think that we have really good conversations, and when we disagree, we just understand that each of us is trying to do what's best for the business, and we kind of take our, departmental hats off and think about what is actually best for the business, not what's best for marketing, not what's best for operations, but what is the best decision for everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll add to that too.
I was going to say, you look like you had a comment sitting there.
But we'll stop the show if we sense any disturbance in the force. We will stop the show and we will sort that problem out, whether that's a dirty vehicle or whatever it is, right? We will stop and we will fix it. And that doesn't stop with our culture that we've built, because we work really hard to build our culture. It's not always been as good as it is now. Like, I think most companies are always striving for that. So culture police, number one. If we have anything wavering, resolute is one of my favorite core values. And if we are wavering at all, if we are not resolute, we will stop the show and we will fix it, no matter what it is.
Would you be willing to share a specific example? Like, kind of, I'll lean into the resolute core value because that's on the tip of your tongue. Like, tell me a story about when, the culture started to waver and what you did to fix it.
Perfect example. I'll jump into it right now. Last week, we had a new hire, and that new hire received their new car, right? Should be a big day, well, slightly used car, let's say. And that was not up to our Rumsey standard. It was a little dirtier than it should be. And Mr. Brendan Rumsey recognized that. We stopped the show and we corrected that. We dove deep into our vehicle maintenance and every single aspect of that. And we corrected it within like 8 hours. And we will never have another dirty vehicle that goes to an employee on their first day again. And again, we moved past it. That was last week, right? But we tightened that up. We rocked past it. And that's just how we operate at Rumsey at every level.
Awesome. Who from your organization led the charge on your initiatives? And, why would you like to recognize them? What did they do? What was their contribution?
I think, like I said earlier, Brendan and Tony are really integral. Brendan being that visionary and Tony leading that company culture. But I think from everyone in our company is really a part of it. We have actually a employee council that's elected by all of the company, and they really plant the seeds, and they're kind of on driving force for the company. And I think they have a big part in them too.
Anything to add, Jonathan or Damian?
Yeah, I think that, like Grace was talking about, the employee council, that is something that it's made up of members from all different departments, and they're voted in by our employees every year. Management does not have anything to do with it. It is purely generated by the employees so that we can appoint people to hear things and be the hearing ear of all of the employees. So that when we did that, it created this culture, helped us to further our culture in making sure that everyone's heard, and that they implement. They take those seeds and they take those things to make changes, and then they implement these things and bring them up to leadership. And that way, it really is coming from the people that are doing it every day, and not somebody above them barking out orders. So that has helped us from, again, in that culture piece, to really make sure that everybody is playing their part.
So if I'm a technician and I get elected to your employee council, what sort of responsibilities do I have? You know, is there meetings that I attend? Like, I know folks are going to be curious, and so I'm just trying to give them some color.
Yeah, we have meetings that you have to attend, and we do lunches. Like they'll sit in a meeting with all their fellow employees, and they'll have lunch, and they'll talk about. I mean, I forget how long it is, but it's multiple
It's
hours.
like an hour and a half.
So,
hour and a half, 2 hours. Yeah.
I think it's around an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then and they do that multiple times throughout the year. I think it's 6 or 8 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they have homework assignments. They leave those meetings with, hey, these are the things that we talked about today in this meeting. You need to generate an email back to us on some of the responses that we need to make and coordination things that we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives them opportunity not only to bring things to the table from their departments that they're hearing from other employees, but also leave that meeting and generate more responses that they, you know, I've learned this at the meeting today. This seems like a problem in other departments. What do y'all think? And they are able to bring that back to the meeting later. So it gives them multiple opportunities. And then, you know, it's also, you're playing a big part in that culture piece again. You're leading. You're not just this technician, or you're not just this secretary or whatever it is. You are leading people when you're part of that employee council, even though you might be just a technician. Every one of them have a role.
And so if somebody's sitting out there and they're like, hey, man, that sounds like a great idea. I'd love to found my own employee council within my organization. What are some good first steps that somebody could take?
Do you want me to take it?
Yeah, for sure. I can jump in right there.
Okay.
It's really, so first thing to do is have good leadership around that, right? You want the right person leading your employee council. I wouldn't say leading, but guiding, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, the whole point of that is to get your secondary tier of leadership, or folks that are not in leadership, to level up and start thinking for themselves and problem solving. That's the whole fundamental process of that. So we use Malia, the lady that takes care of HR for us, right? She's heavily involved in that. She's like the perfect mediator, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, a lot of these people come in full of ideas, right? Everybody wants to change the world, right? Yep. And you want to change 37 things at one time, and that's not how business really works, right? You got to prioritize and plan and execute, train and implement over and over again. So we find it's a really good idea or way to get those ideas out there. So wrangling all those ideas and organizing them is one of the key factors. And I'd say that's probably the first thing to think about, because you're going to get an influx of 9 million things that your employees want to change, and corral that is the best advice I can give.
Yeah, Malia plays that role of structuring that meeting. So if they go around, it's like having a tactical meeting. You go around, you come up with your lightning round, you come up with the things that you want to discuss or that was brought to you, and everybody puts their stuff on a board. And now the group, as an employee council, decides what are the 3 or 4 things that we're going to approach and tackle, so that we can make decisions on these key things.
And so what happens with the things that aren't prioritized? I'm just curious.
They stay on a list. So they view those lists every meeting.
Okay. All right. So it's common for things to stay on the list and go, hey, not urgent enough, not urgent enough. No, now it's urgent now. Let's go ahead and address it.
That, or it's, you sort of yellow light, green light, right? Yellow light, red light, green light. If it's not something, if the group decides that it's not really something that needs to be addressed, they're the employee council. They can decide that and they can take it off.
And so how much autonomy do you give that employee council? Like if they said, look, our hats, our logo is completely bad. We want to change it. Like, do they have that level? I'm picking on that, right? But where does that autonomy stop? And I would just have to imagine the individual who manages that meeting probably has some guardrails set up to make sure, like, you gotta keep folks in a box, right? So everything's productive.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, so that's my meeting, right? We follow the meeting structure and things get escalated and elevated through our meeting structure. So we get the lists, right, in our weekly technical meetings at Rumsey, and we kind of review that list and make sure we're not doing anything crazy like changing the logo to pink and yellow zebra stripes, right?
Hey, that could play well. You never know, man. Pink and yellow. Right on. And then if somebody out there is considering joining Pivot, what advice would you have for them?
You should do it.
Why?
I mean, I think it's really changed our business for the better. And I think it impacts all of us personally too. It gives you so many good ideas. It gives you a support system of people in the industry that you can call and ask advice and learn about their processes. I just think it's been amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that if you have the opportunity to join definitely. But just remember that you really get what you give, and when you're in Pivot, the effort that you're putting in is what you're going to get out of it, and the people that you're talking to and sharing with, that you're going to get what you give. So just make sure that that's your mentality going into it.
Yeah. You don't have to be an eagle. You just got to surround yourself with eagles to soar with them, right? So we're surrounded by eagles in Pivot, and it's nice to soar with those guys and have them elevate us. So it's pretty cool stuff. I would suggest definitely surrounding yourself with good people.
As the guy who's responsible for member acquisition within Pivot, I feel like part of my greatest job is making sure people fit that element of our culture, right? Because the folks that might be less go-giver, I would say, in that way, like, it's awkward for them here. And so I'm always trying to, like, okay, like I sound scenarios off of some of our prospects that are coming in. And I will say, by and large, members of the restoration community, they tend to embody that. Like, it's a hard place to exist if you don't have some element of that culture, right? And it all shows up for us in our own unique ways based on our backgrounds and personalities, for sure. But I would agree with you. That's a key fundamental tenet of being a good peer group participant within Pivot. You got to be willing to give, and you got to be willing to listen and take the feedback. And sometimes it's not the things you want to hear, but it's always the things you need to hear.
For sure. Yeah. We're going to break things in Pivot and fix them, right?
Yep. That's right.
What we do.
And it was, I used to work with this guy at Michigan State University, and he told me, as long as we're operating from a position of truth, we can always move forward. And I think the combination of the peer feedback and the data analysis that we do here at Pivot sets that truth. And so there's always a direction to move forward. I always feel like it's unfair to ask a bunch of questions without giving you guys the opportunity to ask me a question. What do you got?
I mean, I'm interested in your journey to Pivot. Sorry, Jonathan, I didn't mean to speak.
You're good.
So my journey to Pivot, how did I end up here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it all started when I was 9 years old and in the sandbox, and I decided I wanted to clean basements that flood. No. None of us end up in this industry because of some childhood aspiration, right? I started in the industry because I had a summer job, typical Michigan stuff, right? I had a summer job. I was spraying lawns, and that was coming to a conclusion, and I needed a winter job. And so I kind of just fell into it because the pay was decent. And I was like, you're going to give me the keys to a big truck and trust me to drive it around at 18 years old? Like, I'm so into this. Let's go, baby. And then I fell in love with it, right? Because it gave me the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives without having to go get a college degree. And that's really all I wanted out of this life, was to be done with school and go help people. And so it scratched that itch for me. And then as I continued to grow, opened a branch location for coaches, and then moved to Maui and built Premier Restoration, I really started to understand that what a restoration company is. Yes, we get the opportunity to go help people in their time of need, but we also get the opportunity to grow and develop individuals, so then that way they can see their full potential. We also get the opportunity to serve the community at large, right? Like, a lot of the things we do may not generate revenue, but they take care of our communities in their time of need too. And, as I've continued down my career within the restoration industry, it's always been the challenge in my mind, like, what else can we do? How else can we create more value and meaning in the world? And it's less about like how many air movers get placed on a job. But if you want to argue about that, man, I love the technical debate too. Like, I'm still that guy, some punk technician driving a big truck around. Like, I still love that stuff.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Jonathan, Grace?
I mean, I just want some of your cool Hawaiian shirts, man. Like, you're not wearing one today, and I was disappointed.
When in the mainland, you dress in the mainland, right? Like, I try and fit, unless I'm not supposed to fit,
Well, I'm hoping you're going to be there in September. I'll come see you.
Yeah, I'll be around, man. I'll be around. Come hunt me down.
I'll find out where you get those Hawaiian shirts.
So there's depending on where you're going, I'll make sure you go home with not like a cheesy Aloha shirt, but like a decent Aloha shirt.
Sounds good.
Connection now.
Yeah. Grace, what about you?
I think we just want to know how you become a level 6 company. Skipping over 5, just going straight to 6.
Tell you what, level 6 is one of those things that I don't know what it is, but I'll know when I see it.
Okay.
And I would love to see you define level 6. I think that
love that.
That's a challenge now. Okay.
Well, like, you guys needed another challenge. You're so motivated and driven already. But you know what? I'll point out the mountaintops. Let's see what happens.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for taking some time to spend with me today and, walk through who Rumsey is and how you guys have found success. I think that's very inspiring. And I'm looking forward to what the next couple of years has for Rumsey. You guys are doing incredible things.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
We just have one more thing to add that we have to throw in here for our group, our P1
Okay.
our group.
Mm-hmm.
We're at Pivot event at Pivotopia. Then you would have seen it. We are all pivotized. So we just want to make sure that we get that out there. Like, our group is pivotized.
I know you guys had your own jerseys and everything. And, it was one of those things I was sworn to secrecy on. Like, John, who facilitates you guys' group, was like, yeah, P1's doing some jerseys. And I was like, oh, man, I can't let everybody know. But I'm talking to my other pivot groups, like, you guys might want to do something, But yeah, it was cool watching everybody walk in with their jerseys. That was awesome.
Again, that's part of that group that we're in. Like, when we were asked to join, it was such a good fit for us, and we can't express enough how much we appreciate the collaboration that we get from Pivot and then from our group P1. And we truly feel just like our group. we're pivotized. So we appreciate everything y'all do.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Bye.